Do you think you should recognize the name of a person who has been credited with feeding over 1 billion people, won the Nobel Peace Prize, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and numerous other awards? The person of whom I'm speaking is the agronomist Norman Borlaug. Unfortunately, much of Borlaug's work was not done in America, so his name is not as recognizable as it should be. Borlaug was named the father of the Green Revolution for developing a drought and disease-resistant, high-yielding wheat. I'll explain Norman Borlaug's background, speak about his determination during the 1960s to feed the world, and recognize this unsung hero for his worldwide impact to end hunger. Much of Norman Borlaug's youth and background explains his deep desires to feed the world. According to the book titled Hero for the Hungry, Norman's great-grandparents fled Norway during the potato blight and eventually landed in Cresco, Iowa, where Norman was born on his grandparents' farm in 1914. As an 8-year-old, Norman began working on the farm. Although the family farm remained intact, Norman grew up watching many neighbors lose their farms during the Depression. During high school, Norman Borlaug participated in wrestling. A family genealogy project shares that his wrestling coach expected everyone to give 105%. Norman carried this ideal with him for the rest of his life. Another strong influence in Norman's life was his grandfather, Nels Borlaug, who told him to get a good education. He said, "Depressions will come and go, but nobody can take a good education away from you." Noel Wittmeyer details in his book called Our Daily Bread that Norman headed to the University of Minnesota during his forestry degree. Then, with a little bit of redirection, his doctorate in plant pathology. A chance attendance at a lecture by Professor Alvin Staken became an aha moment for Norman. One of his notes from the lecture stated, "Biological science, crop disease, soil infertility, human population, and world hunger all interwoven." He thought he could be a person who made a difference. Several jobs later, Borlaug joined the Mexican Wheat Program. Laura Swanson shares in her book, called Hero in a Hurry, that Norman's goal was to prevent mass starvation. At the time, Mexico was unable to grow enough food to feed themselves. At first, Norman found everything very difficult in Mexico. But by 1963, Mexico's wheat production had increased sixfold, and now was selling seed to other countries. Gary Arndt's 2020 podcast explains the wheat variety perfected in the 1960s by Borlaug's team provides seeds for 99% of the wheat grown in the world today. The success Norman had in Mexico caused the world to notice. The University of Minnesota website explains, students started coming from all over the world to work in the Mexican wheat fields with Norman Borlaug, and came to be known as his wheat apostles. Norman worked from dawn to dusk and expected his students to do the same. He told his students to listen to the wheat. The students did, and when they returned to their own countries, improved food production was the result. 2 countries, Pakistan and India, required the presence of the father of the Green Revolution to make changes that would improve an undernourished population. Biographer Wittmeyer explains how pivotal Norman Borlaug's trip to India was during the 1960s. Once again, there are many complications. Norman predicted that if India used the Mexican wheat seed, they could triple production. India's food supply improved so drastically, the country issued a stamp commemorating the Indian Green Revolution during the 1960s that also greatly improved the general economy of India. Pakistan's story had a different twist, but a similar slant. The Mexican wheat seed had been planted, but mishandled. Norman found out and used 2 correctly grown plots to persuade the Pakistan agricultural officials to use his methods. By 1968, Pakistan would show a 48% increase in wheat production. With billions of people fed, Norman should have been a hero, but critics continued to surface. Never one to give up, Norman continued fighting world hunger well into his 90s. Borlaug once said, "Without food, all other things we take for granted. Clothing, housing, education, and employment are all of secondary importance." Norman's work ethic and efforts to feed the world, especially during the 1960s, unquestionably earned him the status of hero, and should also have given him the name recognition status of rock star of hunger.